He is arguably the most famous among those suspected to be time travelers in history. He implemented revolutionary policies, banned the sale of slaves, established state-owned enterprises, nationalized land, and even built affordable housing, while enforcing centralized control of prices. To standardize measurements, he invented the vernier caliper. In his leisure time, he even took up the role of a designer, creating ultra-short skirts for his wife, showcasing modern technological applications. Most notably, he did what many protagonists in time travel novels dream of: he became an emperor. He effectively divided the powerful Han Dynasty into the Western and Eastern Han, establishing a new dynasty with himself as the sole emperor. Thus, the history of this new dynasty can be seen as a memoir of Wang Mang. The question remains, was Wang Mang a time traveler, or simply a genius born in the wrong era? In this video, we will explore the life of Emperor Wang Mang of the Xin Dynasty in chronological order, providing a comprehensive understanding of his life and reign. Wang Mang was born in 45 BC and met his demise in AD 23, at the age of 68. He created a precedent in Chinese history by successfully claiming the throne through abdication. However, his Xin dynasty lasted only 15 years with him as its sole emperor, often overlooked in history. Despite its short duration, Wang Mang implemented several modernizing reforms. He introduced the Wangtian system to limit land privatization, banned the rewarding of slaves and servants, promoted state-run enterprises, and reformed the currency system. However, his frequent policy changes and overly complicated decrees eventually led to the failure of these reforms and accelerated the downfall of the Xin dynasty. To fully understand Wang Mang's life and story, we need to start from the beginning. Since the reign of Emperor Qing of Han, the Lu family's control over the imperial court gradually shifted to the Wang family, an external relative group centered around Empress Dowager Wang Zhengjun. The Wang family, with Wang Zhengjun's brother Wang Feng wielding significant power, established a dominant presence in the court, with 9 family members becoming marquises and 5 serving as grand commandants. Wang Mang was born in 45 BC as the second son in his family. His aunt was Empress Dowager Wang Zhengjun. Unfortunately, Wang Mang's father and elder brother died early, and since his father had not been enfeoffed as a marquis, young Wang Mang did not live a life of luxury. Instead, he was known for his humility, studiousness, and simple living. He took on the responsibility of caring for his mother and widowed sister-in-law, showing great filial piety to his uncles and becoming a role model among his many cousins. In 24 BC, Wang Feng, who held the position of Grand Commandant, fell seriously ill. Wang Mang, then 22 years old, took meticulous care of his uncle as if he were his own father. 2 years later, on his deathbed, Wang Feng recommended Wang Mang for the position of attendant at the imperial gate and entrusted Wang Zhengjun to look after him. This marked the beginning of Wang Mang's political career. He rapidly ascended the ranks and was soon promoted to the position of colonel of archers, equivalent to a high military commander in modern terms. The position of grand commandant was then passed to Wang Shang. In 16 BC, Wang Mang's uncle, the Grand Commandant Wang Shang, petitioned Emperor Qing of Han, expressing his willingness to cede part of his fief to his nephew. Consequently, 30-year-old Wang Mang was enfeoffed as the Marquis of Xindu and continued to rise through the ranks, eventually becoming an attendant in ordinary, a guard, and close official to the emperor. Despite his high position, Wang Mang remained humble, respectful to the learned and lower-ranked, and led a frugal life. He often distributed his salary among his retainers and the common people, earning widespread admiration. Wang Mang's reputation soon surpassed that of his uncles and other family members. Over the following 8 years, the Wang family maintained tight control over the position of Grand Commandant, passing from Wang Shang to Wang Gen. Wang Mang's primary rival at court was his cousin, Chun Yuchang, the nephew of Empress Dowager Wang Taihou. Chun Yuchang had risen to prominence earlier than Wang Mang and was adept at flattery. He had played a significant role in the elevation of Zhao Feiyan to empress and was thus highly trusted by Emperor Qing. He quickly rose to become one of the 9 ministers, responsible for guarding the imperial palace. To defeat his political adversary, Wang Mang secretly gathered evidence of Chen Yuchang's illicit affair with the deposed Empress Su, leading to Chen Yuchang's imprisonment. Eventually, under Empress Dowager Wang Taihou orders, Chen Yuchang was executed. In 8 BC, with the illness of Wang Gen, 38-year-old Wang Mang was recommended to succeed the position of Grand Commandant. During his tenure, Wang Mang was strict with himself, hiring virtuous and capable people, using all his rewards and gifts to entertain talented individuals, while living a modest life himself. Once, when officials visited his mother, they mistook his plainly dressed wife for a servant. A year later, Emperor Qing of Han passed away, and Emperor Ai ascended the throne. The grandmother of Emperor Ai, Empress Dowager Fu, and the family of Empress Ding gradually gained power. Wang Mang was forced to resign from his position as Grand Commandant and retired to his fief in Xindu, living in seclusion. To avoid giving others leverage against him, when his son Wang Huo killed a household servant, Wang Mang sternly punished him and even forced Wang Huo to commit suicide, earning the public's approval. During Wang Mang's retirement, many commoners and officials felt he was treated unfairly and called for his return to power. Under public pressure, Emperor Ai had no choice but to recall Wang Mang to the capital to serve Empress Dowager Wang, though his official positions were not restored. In 1 BC, Emperor Ai died without leaving an heir. Immediately after the emperor's death, Empress Dowager Wang Zhengjun retrieved the imperial seal. At the age of 45, Wang Mang, recommended by many, unsurprisingly assumed the position of Grand Commandant again, taking charge of the military and the imperial guard. He installed the 9-year-old Emperor Ping, handling state affairs as his regent, and received widespread support from the court and the public. However, once stability was achieved, Wang Mang's ambitions began to surface. Wang Mang began to eliminate those who opposed him. He first compelled Empress Dowager Wang Zhengjun to drive away his uncle Wang Li. Then, he promoted those loyal to him and purged those who resented or offended him. Understanding the need to strengthen his position at court, Wang Mang sought to ingratiate himself with the respected Confucian scholar and grand minister over the masses, Kong Guang, an elder statesman who served under 3 emperors, was deeply respected by both the Empress Dowager and the court but was timid and overly cautious. Wang Mang actively sought closeness with him, recommending his son-in-law Zhen Han for important positions, and used Kong Guang's influence to further his own ends. Using the Empress Dowager's name, Wang Mang pressured Kong Guang to promote his agenda. This led to the impeachment and dismissal of officials like He Wu and Gong Sun Lu. He subsequently removed high-ranking officials such as Shi Li, Wu Jianglong, Ding Xuan, and Zhao Chang, stripping marquisites from Dong Wu and Zhang You, among others. Simultaneously, Wang Mang cultivated his faction, relying on his cousins Wang Shun and Wang Yi, and close associates Zhen Feng and Zhen Han, to manage critical affairs and disciplinary actions. Wang Mang maintained a serious and upright demeanor. When seeking benefits, a slight hint from him was enough for his supporters to act accordingly. He would then refuse the rewards with tears and humility, deceiving the Empress Dowager and hiding his ambitions from the public. In AD 1, officials proposed to the Empress Dowager that Wang Mang, having stabilized the ancestral temples, should receive honors equal to those of Huoguang. Wang Mang, however, requested only to reward his 4 colleagues, insisting on deferring his own recognition. He repeatedly refused the Empress Dowager's decrees until he finally accepted the title Duke of Anhan but declined the associated land grant. Furthermore, Wang Mang and his 3 trusted advisors were elevated to the 4 assistants, Wang Mang as Grand Tutor, Kong Guang as Grand Instructor, Wang Shun as Grand Guardian, and Zhen Feng as Lesser Tutor. These 4 assistants held significant power, making all major political decisions except for matters of enfeoffment. In AD 2, a severe drought and locust plague struck many regions of the empire. Wang Mang personally led the effort to provide relief, offering his lands and residences to aid the victims. He implemented policies such as tax reductions for affected areas, converted the royal Huqi Garden into Anmin County to shelter the displaced, and built 1,000 housing units in Chang'an for them. These measures were similar to modern affordable housing initiatives, and Wang Mang's popularity among the people reached its peak. Concerned about the Wei family, relatives of Emperor Ping, potentially dividing his power, Wang Mang relocated Emperor Ping's mother and the Wei family to Zhongshan and prohibited them from returning to the capital. Fearing Emperor Ping's future resentment, Wang Mang's eldest son, Wang Yu, opposed this move but was ignored by Wang Mang. Wang Yu and his teacher, Wu Zhang, attempting to use superstitious methods to change Wang Mang's decision, planned a ruse involving blood wine at Wang Mang's residence. However, the plot was discovered, and in anger, Wang Mang had Wang Yu arrested and poisoned in prison. He then used the incident to falsely accuse and execute the Wei family and other local elites opposed to him, including Princess Jingwu and Prince Luli of Liang. Hundreds were killed in the incident, causing shock throughout the empire. To mitigate the negative impact, Wang Mang had the event propagated as an act of righteousness over kinship, public duty over private interest. He even had eulogies written and distributed nationwide, requiring officials and the public to memorize these texts, which were then recorded in official archives and taught alongside the classic of filial piety. In the third year of Yuanshi, AD 3, Wang Mang made his eldest daughter, Wang Yan, the empress. After the incident involving Lu Quan, Wang Yu was forced to commit suicide by Wang Mang, implicating hundreds of others. Wang Mang supporters then submitted petitions praising his act of killing his son as a display of righteousness and public duty, compiling 8 admonitory texts along with the classic of filial piety as key materials for selecting talents for the state. In the fourth year of Yuanshi, AD 4, Wang Mang was granted the title of Zaiheng, placing him above all princes and dukes. He proposed the construction of ritual buildings like Mingtang and Biyong, national granaries, and built 10,000 housing units for scholars. He gathered thousands of scholars and people with special talents in Chang'an, fervently promoting Confucian teachings and rituals, which garnered support from Confucian scholars. First, over 480,000 civilians, along with princes, dukes, and imperial family members, petitioned for additional rewards for Wang Mang. Then, 900 high-ranking officials requested to bestow upon him the 9 bestowments. Consequently, the court granted Wang Mang these highest honors, symbolizing supreme respect. To create the impression of a peaceful and prosperous era, Wang Mang first sent 8 customs envoys to inspect various regions. Upon their return, they greatly praised the peace and order under Wang Mang rule. Additionally, by offering substantial rewards, he enticed envoys from external groups like the Xiongnu to pay tribute, bolstering his reputation as a sage ruler adept in governance and pacification. 2 years later, Emperor Ping of Han died. To avoid a more mature emperor ascending the throne, which could limit his control, Wang Mang installed the 2-year-old Liu Ying as crown prince. Empress Dowager, following the minister's wishes, asked Wang Mang to act as the regent, effectively making him a pseudo-emperor, while the subjects referred to him as Shi Huangdi, regent emperor, and he referred to himself as Yu. At the age of 51, Wang Mang's power in the court was at its zenith, almost equal to that of the emperor. This rise to power triggered backlash from opposition factions, primarily from the Lu imperial clan. The first to rebel was Anzhonghou, Liu Chong, who led over 100 men in an attack on one city. However, the attack failed even to breach the city gates. In the following year, the governor of Dongjun, Zhai Yi, launched a rebellion, proclaiming Yanxianghou, Liu Xing as the emperor. 23 counties to the west of Chang'an also revolted. Feeling the crisis, Wang Mang, while holding the young Liu Ying, prayed in the ancestral temples daily, declaring his regency as temporary and promising to eventually return the throne to Liu Ying. Simultaneously, he deployed troops to suppress the rebellion, ultimately quelling the insurgent forces. After suppressing the rebellion, Wang Mang began considering proclaiming himself emperor. In AD 9, Wang Mang forced Empress Dowager Wang Zhengjun to hand over the imperial seal and accepted the abdication from Liu Ying, proclaiming himself emperor at the age of 54 and establishing the Xin Dynasty. With widespread support from the court and the people, Wang Mang achieved the highest position of power, becoming the first in Chinese history to become emperor through abdication. Over 8 years, he had gradually ascended from regent of Han to Zaiheng, then to pseudo-emperor, and finally to a legitimate emperor, pioneering a new form of seizing the throne in Chinese history. After becoming emperor, Han Mang implemented a series of popular measures, historically known as Wang Mang's reforms. He declared all lands as royal property, replacing private land with royal land, and slaves were to be considered private subjects like royal land, not to be bought or sold. He reformed the currency system, official hierarchy, and decreed that the exploitation of salt, iron, mountains, and rivers should be state-operated. He also proclaimed rest and security for the people. Since the late Han period, political corruption, court extravagance, oppressive local governance, and large-scale land acquisitions by powerful landlords had led to widespread displacement and hardship among the populace, economic decline, and increasing political instability. Since assuming power, Wang Mang, in an attempt to win the hearts of the people, implemented a series of policies to alleviate social conflicts. However, these measures failed to address the root causes of the problems. A firm believer in Confucian ideals, Han Mang sought to restore the society to the era of ritual propriety, 礼崩乐坏, as advocated by Confucius, aiming for a harmonious and orderly state. After becoming emperor, he initiated reforms known as Wang Mang's reforms to revive the ancient Zhou dynasty's ritual system. These reforms included renaming all lands as Wangtian, royal fields, in an attempt to restore the well-field system, and changing the status of slaves to sishu, private subjects, both of which were not to be bought or sold. He also repeatedly altered the currency and official system and nationalized the production of salt, iron, liquor, and coin minting, as well as mountains and water resources. However, these policies were more about returning to the past in name rather than practicality, often contradicting actual conditions. The enforcement methods were incorrect, and after facing strong opposition, Han Mang resorted to harsh laws and punishments, leading to numerous counts of severe punishment for violating decrees, from nobles and officials to commoners, exacerbating social unrest. The people suffered from these policies before seeing any benefits. Frequent policy changes left the populace and officials in confusion, leading to widespread dissatisfaction among the elites and common people. Beginning in AD 11, the common people, burdened by Wang Mang's constant conscriptions and levies, abandoned their lands to become bandits, with thousands rising in rebellion. In AD 17, a woman from present-day Rizhao, Shandong, known as Lü Mu, avenged the wrongful execution of her son by attacking and capturing the county seat, executing the magistrate, and declaring herself a general. Operating along the coast, her forces quickly grew to tens of thousands, making Lü Mu the first female leader of a peasant uprising in Chinese history. A year later, a man named Yi Zidu from Donghai led a rebellion, quickly amassing an army of tens of thousands. That same year, dozens of other rebellious groups emerged in the north and south, varying in size from a few thousand to several hundred thousand. Among these numerous rebel forces across the country, two of the largest groups became the main forces of the peasant uprising, the Greenwood Army in the south and the Red Eyebrows Army in the north. In AD 23, during a Crying to Heaven ceremony held by Wang Mang in the southern suburbs, the Greenwood Army invaded Chang'an, forcing Wang Mang to flee to Gradual Altar. Eventually, the 1,000 followers remaining with Wang Mang were all killed in battle, and Wang Mang himself was slain by a rebel soldier, marking the end of the Xin Dynasty. After the fall of the Xin Dynasty, Han Mang's severed head was preserved by successive imperial dynasties. It was not until AD 295, during the reign of Emperor Hui of Jin, that it was destroyed in a fire at the Luoyang Armory. Wang Mang is a controversial figure in history. Ancient historians, adhering to the concept of legitimacy, deemed him a grand traitor for usurping the throne. It was only after the end of the imperial era in modern times that many historians began to view Wang Mang as the first social reformer in Chinese history, seeing him as a visionary and selfless social reformer. The failure of Wang Mang reforms was historically inevitable, but his impetuous nature, impracticality, and obstinacy played a significant role. His inability to adjust policies according to actual conditions and establish an efficient and credible institution to implement his reforms ultimately doomed them to failure. Today, we explored the life of Wang Mang, a controversial yet influential figure in history. His attempts at reform, though ultimately ending in failure, still spark our reflections on power, change, and historical justice. What are your thoughts on Wang Mang? Do you see him as a visionary social reformer ahead of his time, or as an ambitious usurper? Please leave your thoughts in the comments section. If you liked this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss our latest content. Thank you all for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.